Welcome to this introduction to ACCA P3, the business analysis paper. My name is David Laws and I'm going to go through some of the key concepts and key ideas that go behind the ACCA P3 exam. So what exactly is ACCA paper P3, the business analysis paper? What exactly is it all about? Well, you can see it says it is a strategic paper. It's basically asking you to imagine that you sit on the board of directors of an organisation. You are going to be involved in some fairly high level decisions. If you get those decisions right, then your company will be successful, and if you get those decisions wrong, your company could go bankrupt. So we're talking high level important things. You can see that it's talking about testing understanding, testing judgment. Now what that basically means is the examiner does not want you to just learn lots of theories, lots of models. There are lots of models in the P3 course, but the examiner isn't that worried about all of them. What the examiner wants, is for you to prove you understand when you should use them, how you should use them, and what they actually mean when you have used them. Now that means that you have to understand the theories, the models, as well as just learning them. So there's a lot of application of knowledge. You can see in the second bullet point there, it talks about analysing a situation. So the examiner will give you some facts about a company, quite a lot of facts in some of the questions about a company, and you are expected to think about, why was I told those facts? What was the point of telling me that? What information is it giving me? So that you can then come up with a sensible solution. You have to be able to give a solution that would work for the organisation that you are actually dealing with. You would be surprised how many students come up with ideas that just would not work at all. A lot of students would probably bankrupt their company if the company followed the students' suggestions. We do not want to be doing that if we want to pass the exam. Finally, you can see there it says it requires some kind of application of our knowledge. I have already mentioned it. It's not a learning paper. It's applying the models, coming up with sensible suggestions, and showing that you actually deserve to be a qualified accountant who could, at some point in the future, be one of those board of directors making decisions that affect a company, and of course also affect the lives, the jobs of all the people who work for that company. P3 is divided into 9 different areas. Some of them are fairly big areas, some of them are more detailed areas. Now there is an accompanying video, and in that particular video I will go through these syllabus headings in a lot more detail. But for the purposes of this introduction, we can basically divide the syllabus into 2 areas. The syllabus areas, Part A, Part B and Part C, are all concerned with big things that affect an organisation. So what we're talking about here is we're talking about what should an organisation be doing next. Is the organisation doing well? Is the organisation doing badly? If an organisation is doing well, why is it doing well? If an organisation is doing badly, why is it doing badly? That's basically strategic position, and as I say, I will talk a little bit more about that in the past paper analysis. Strategic choices. If a company is doing well, they presumably want to continue doing well. If a company is doing badly, then they need to start performing well. Either way, they will have to make some choices about what they're going to do next, and that's section B of the syllabus. Section C of the syllabus, strategic action, is basically thinking about how do we make sure that these things actually happen. So we perhaps have decided that we're going to do something radically different in our company to the way that we've done things before. Well, how do you make sure that actually works? So the top 3 areas of the syllabus are very much looking at the big picture for an organisation. They're looking at the overall performance of an organisation. The remaining sections, section D onward, are looking much more at individual things. So what tends to happen with section A, B and C is that you've got something major in an organisation that needs changing. With section D, E, F, etc., the company might be doing okay overall. Profits might be good, revenues might be good, but there may well be one small part of the company or one particular thing that they do which is not going as well as it should do. So there's one area they can improve on. So overall things are all right, but there's one particular bit that isn't going particularly well. So sections D onward are looking much more at detailed areas of a company. Sections A, B and C are looking at the overall position of a company. So the kind of things that we have got there, things like business processes, information technology, quality, project management, are all fairly detailed areas. Notice that we have section H, which is on financial analysis. Financial analysis use some figures to tell how well a company is doing. Now again, I'll talk about this a bit more when we do the past paper analysis, but we're basically talking about fairly straightforward fundamental ratios that allow you to say that company is getting better, that company is getting worse. There are usually going to be some pretty straightforward marks for doing well in the financial analysis. So those are the various syllabus areas that we have. So, having talked about what P3 is about and having talked about the syllabus areas, how are you going to be examined? P3 has a very, very straightforward exam format. You can see it's a straightforward 3-hour exam with 15 minutes of reading time on top. How is the exam structured? We have one compulsory case study worth 50 marks. That case study will probably be spread out over 3 or 4 pages of A4. There will be a lot of information in there. There may be some numbers in there as well. The whole idea behind the case study is to be able to say, here is a company, here's what they are doing, here's how we could improve it. That's basically what it's going to be. Very, very practical. The second part of the exam, the optional section, section B, there are 3 questions worth 25 marks each, of which you get to choose any 2 that you want to do. These tend to be on sections D onwards of the syllabus. So the business process management, the quality, all those kind of things. That's where you tend to get the questions that are in section B. So they'll tend to be in that bit. Notice what it says underneath that. Often you have 2 or 3 syllabus headings in it. The examiner could put question 3, part A is on quality, part B is on something else to do with people perhaps. So it's not going to be, like in some of the exam papers, here is a 25 mark question on one topic. You might have mixed topics in there. The key thing with all of these is the examiner is going to give you an awful lot of information about a company. It could be a department, it could even be a person, but you will have a lot of information. What do you do with it? You apply your knowledge, you demonstrate your understanding, you come up with a sensible solution to whatever the problem is in the question. There is always a problem in every single question. Something's going wrong and you have to solve it. The final bit I have down on this slide, question 1, the big 50-mark case study has always been on strategic analysis and strategic choice. Every single exam. And when we have a look at the past paper analysis in another video, you will see that. That's really the key to passing the exam, doing well on those bits. So, what is it that you actually have to do in order to pass paper P3? Well, understand the models. I have mentioned this already at least twice because it is so important. You can't learn them without understanding what you are doing with them. So as I have said already, when do you use them? How do you use them? What do they tell you? So understanding what the models are actually there for and what you do with them is incredibly important. You will need to apply the models to the facts that are given in the question. So, for example, there are various models which you would use in a certain way if a company was getting better, and you'd use in a different way if a company was getting worse. Same model being used in two different ways, and you're going to have to know which way to use it, and that will come through understanding the models. Give practical solutions. Notice there the key word is practical. Again, we get lots of students who give things that are impractical or don't give any solutions at all. They will simply say, I am a qualified accountant, because you usually are in the exam. You're usually an accountant exam. I'm a qualified accountant. I have looked at all of your problems. I have no idea what to do. Now, again, can I suggest that's not really a very good way of passing the exam? Practical solutions, you are going to have to think about what happens in real life. So one of the things that I encourage my students to do is read the business pages of newspapers, look at business articles on the online on the internet, look at what problems real life companies face and look at what they're doing about them. Even if the solution doesn't work, at least now you know, don't suggest that one in the exam. And finally down here, practice exam questions. Now, I know as well as you know that those of you that are doing numbers papers where there are calculations, you are much more likely to practice those under exam conditions. If you have a wordy paper, and P3 is a wordy paper, if you have a paper where there's a lot of writing, the temptation is read the question, read the answer and say, I would have got that. Unfortunately, that is not going to help you in the exam. It's very much you have to practice doing questions of the right standard, under the right conditions, and then you will learn from that what you're doing well and what you're doing badly. So, in summary, P3 is a very practical, business-oriented paper. It's trying to show that you understand things, that you can look at the big picture, that you can learn some models and know how they help, and you can give sensible business advice to people. It's very, very different from the F papers where you can just learn things without necessarily understanding them. At P3, you must understand and you're going to have to think for yourself.